restart the meeting.
Yeah, I'm not sure when it crashed. For those that are listening or watching at home, just want to let you know we did have a crash on our system, so it's been rebooted. We're going to verify basically that we did have roll call and approval of minutes with a start time at 5:31 p.m. We had a motion for minutes approval from February 4th, 26th for the minutes. Ms. Wren motioned, Ms. Mailing seconded, 3 votes for aye, none for nay. And we began a presentation with Mr. Alec Just, our Director of Special Education Services, who is doing his presentation tonight.
Do you want me to start from the top or do you?
Sorry.
Okay. So for our special education update, we are going to talk about kind of 3 main areas: how we're supporting students, how we're supporting our staff and educators, and how we're supporting families in some upcoming events. So in terms of supporting students, our curriculum department for all of our staff this year has done a lot of work around breaking down our grade level standards and helping to help teachers understand them and teach them better. And we wanted to mirror that from a special education perspective. So what we did is we retrained all of our staff in our IEP processes and discuss where our grade level standards intersect in each part of that IEP process. Why did we do that? Because access, engagement, and progress towards those grade level standards is the main goal of special education. So like I said, we have done a series of trainings both for leaders and educators. For years we've used what's called the 5-step college and career ready IEP process. And the 5 steps are just understanding achievement, identifying disability related needs, creating IEP goals, aligning services, and then monitoring the progress of those services. So what we did for staff is, we're very familiar with that, is we did a training on that process again, but we took each step and we identified where in that process do grade level standards fit in. So for instance, when we're talking about the first step of understanding achievement, we're just talking about what standards are students meeting, what standards are they not meeting. When we talk about step 2, the disability related needs, that's just why they're not meeting those standards, okay, and so on and so forth. So we did that training with educators on our professional development day on December 1st and January 26th. December 1st was our secondary staff, January 26th was our elementary staff. And then we also create an asynchronous training for our principals and assistant principals. And that's so that they have the necessary knowledge on the IEP process and that standards alignment to the process, because they're what's called their LEA representatives in the meeting. So they're in the IEP meeting, helping facilitate and making sure that the school building can commit to the resources that the students need. Okay.
How were those trainings received?
I thought they were received well, yeah, and I think it was nice because it was existing knowledge our staff had, and then also like they're in a lot of the curriculum stuff too, so kind of creating that bridge for them I think was successful. And I think by focusing on like the specific steps to it, it also helps our educators know what not to do, right? To kind of take some things off of their plate that aren't having the effect size that we need them to have for students. So one of our another initiative that we're doing to support students and support staff as well is we're doing some proactive data reviews, specifically to drive general collaboration, but also to ensure that our students are making progress towards their IEP goals. So twice a year, I've only done it once this year so far, and then we'll also do it in April or May towards the end of this year, is I meet with every special education teacher and they just walk me and their relevant program support teacher through their caseload and just talk about the data that they have towards their students' IEP goals. So we just color code everything, like red, the student is making progress towards their goals, yellow, we need to do some problem solving, and green, the student is making sufficient progress towards their IEP goals. And again, the point of this was to ensure that, one, we are monitoring progress, but also just to make sure that students and staff are getting what they need to make progress towards their goals, because those goals are aligned to those grade level standards.
I have another question.
You can ask any question.
Okay, so these meetings are the special education teacher,
Yep,
you,
yes,
and a program support teacher.
yes.
Who are the program support, not like literally who, but
Yeah.
like, how does that framework
Yeah,
work?
that's a good question. You can kind of think of them as instructional coaches for our special ed department.
Okay,
Yep, so they do help some compliance things but they're really facilitating like the IEP process and instructional strategies for students with disabilities.
how many do we have?
We have one currently.
Oh,
Yes.
for everybody?
Yes. Yeah, we had a resignation because she wanted to go back into the classroom. You know, it's a much different role than a program support teacher position. So we do have one currently. At the time of these meetings, we did have two.
Are we looking to hire a second one again?
I think we're exploring that and exploring some different options as well. Obviously all in the light of like making sure those teachers are supported.
Yeah,
And keeping in mind, there's other roles too within the district that have that role, quasi role. School
Yeah.
psych, social workers, counselors get involved in the process too, school psychs primarily, ALEC especially.
Yep. Yeah, staff are always free to come to me. These are pretty hyper specialized staff, but we also encourage staff, like if you're a special education teacher at Ben Franklin, you still have access to your literacy coach at Ben Franklin, right? Or your math coach at Ben Franklin. You still have access to those tier 1 supports just like our students do.
so it sounds like we're not gonna hire another person.
I honestly
don't know.
don't know.
No, the staffing plan's coming up, I'm
Yeah.
not sure what the need is in it, but I
Okay.
know that's one of the things Leah and Caitlin have been working on with ALEC
Interesting.
for the past probably 3-4 weeks with special ed specifically, so.
Yeah, I've never experienced it. Now, I'm just more thinking like, I wonder how nice of a resource that would have been as a special
Yeah.
education teacher, like to have that specific person who I'm assuming understands IEPs and like it's a cumbersome legal document
Yeah.
plus, giving the services,
Yes.
like to
Yeah.
have that added support seems pretty like amazing.
Yeah, I totally agree, and
Yeah.
it's definitely something that you don't see a lot of districts have.
Yeah,
At this
I
point,
like
but in contrast to that too, and we'll talk about it a little later, the state and our local CISA are also growing a lot of their like teacher support system and things like that, like there's a statewide induction program now that a lot of our new teachers access and have a coach through that, so there are other ways that we're supporting staff as well.
So most districts don't have one. We had two, but now
Yeah.
we have one.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good way to summarize it.
Okay.
So just a little overview of what came out of those November data reviews. A lot of the highlight successes were around general education collaboration, so things like co-teaching, things like pushing into the regular education environment, things like using and adapting our core resource, so that's the like literacy or math resource all students are utilizing, our special education teachers taking that and adapting it for our students with disabilities to make sure that they can access it. And again, successful use of those new resources and curriculum. We've, purchased some additional reading resources around our new curriculum as well that staff have seemed to appreciate in using with students with disabilities. The biggest thing we noticed as an area of difficulty was executive functioning that teachers highlighted. So we're starting to explore some next steps with that. Things like, staying organized or, planning out your independent work periods or remembering to do your homework or how to ask for help, where to go for help, those soft skills. Any questions on that?
no, not this time.
Okay, so again, thinking of how we're supporting staff. So we have kind of two pathways to support staff. So one is if special education teachers are in their first 1 or 2 years with us, they receive regular coaching from a support staff member. Typically, that's our program support teacher. For some of our staff, it might be me. For some of our staff, it might be like a department chair or a mentor special education teacher or something like that. And then we also have staff participating in the special education induction program through CISA 1. Staff are eligible to do that between their first 3 years in the field. And they actually get together in a cohort, I believe it's once a quarter, to meet as a large group to go over high leverage practices in the field. And then they also have access to a coach through CISA as well. The coach was a former special education director who works with them on those specific practices, but then can answer questions and things like that. it's really nice because then they also send me a report of like, what are they working on, things that have been identified and things that have been coming up, so it's really helped us create like a holistic support system for our special education staff.
They meet with them virtually or in person?
In person,
Okay.
yeah, and it's really nice because we actually get reimbursed for the sub cost for that. So it's a grant through the state, yeah.
Is this like years 1 through 2 or 1 through 3 in the district? Is it just like if you had 10 years of experience and then came, you still get this, or is it, you can try to ask?
Yeah.
The other is just for new to the field teaching.
Yeah, so the state one is new to the field. I will say they've been really flexible with this, like I think I had a teacher do, she had like a post-bac kind of opportunity, how she got into special education. And they let us put her in the year 1 program when she was actually year 2. Like if there's slots, CISA's very willing to work with us, so.
It's kind of neat because it's a collaborative process for PPGs, like for their own personal
Yeah.
professional, and then being able to help us, because then it gives feedback if all of a sudden, or take a great example, if all of a sudden we're seeing a higher need in their students for executive function, they're seeing a higher need for the professional development for executive function, then we can tailor what we do as an organization to get them the skills they need too, so. It's kind of, it's a nice feeder, you know, plus it is kind of nice having someone external to just have conversations with, because maybe they're experiencing a problem in the district that no one else really sees. You might not feel comfortable going to somebody that's a colleague, or even if they're in the building or out of the building. It's nice having someone outside the district just to have conversations with, say,
Sure,
what do you
different
see?
feedback.
You know, bounce ideas off of too, so.
Yeah, so we're excited to keep using that.
Does this ever get, I guess I don't know honestly, like how many new staff there are in the special ed department, or like, I think about like staffing for next year, like will this get cumbersome if there's a lot of new staff?
Yeah, it hasn't yet. I think if it would, we would try to think of, well, one, like the CISA program, like that'll be continued to be offered. In terms of like regular coaching from a staff member, if it gets cumbersome for a program support teacher to do, I think we would start identifying like other leaders in our special education department for that. 'Cause we have a lot of great teachers here, and I think informally that's happening a lot,
Oh,
so I think we could certainly leverage it in a more formal capacity. Okay, and then I did just wanna touch on some family engagement events that we have coming up. We have a very large bubble of 5th graders with disabilities moving up into the middle school, so we're actually hosting a transition information night at the beginning of April. So it's gonna be myself, it's gonna be a couple of special education teachers from North. We're talking to a school counselor for attending too. And then I'm also reaching out to see if some parents who have gone through the transition would also be interested in attending. And we're gonna invite the 5th grade families with students with disabilities to it, and we're just gonna do like a general presentation on what to expect, like, you know, common questions that come up, give overviews of things like Schoology and Power School, talk about pickup and drop off, but then also have a Q&A session like with that panel of people, to hopefully ease some of this transition process for those families. And if it goes well, it could be, you know, a regular thing. It's probably the biggest transition kids make in our district. It's like, you know, middle school to high school is hard, but it kind of looks similar, right? But 5th grade to middle school looks a lot different, so we typically get a lot of questions on that and are trying to proactively support that.
And then do we have enough staff at the middle school to support the number of kids that are going in?
Yes,
Okay,
we don't currently, but we will.
sure.
Yeah, just because of the
Things
influx
around,
going up. Yep, and we did
Make
something
some
similar with the
adjustments.
Ben Franklin and Riverside and Shady Valley transition a few years ago too for this bubble.
I was gonna say, I remember it, you had, and there was also like a, basically like a special education night.
Why is there a bubble?
I think it's just the way it landed.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
when you look at the IEPs, they're very legitimate qualifications, you know, so I think it's just,
cause
I
isn't it
wish I could
generally
answer
like,
you
they
that
say the
haven't seen it.
special ed percentage should be like 20 to 30% of something, so how much bigger is this bubble?
oh, like proportionally?
Yeah,
I actually don't know the answer to that question. That's a really good question. So, district-wide, we're about 14%, which I would say, like most districts in our area are somewhere between like 13 to 15, so we're right in
Okay.
there, but it's an interesting thought of if we just look at 5th grade, what would that
Well, yeah,
percentage be?
that's just me being like,
Yeah.
Especially when you start talking about the over-identification especially.
Right, yeah.
I mean, that's a good thing, especially for proportionality in general.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then, of course, you can do the deduction of time frame. Okay, these kids are going into
Right,
sixth grade, how old are they, what happened back then, where all of a sudden we have this thing that happened, 2020, 2021. Was that an impactor on it, is that something that led to this? Extra needs being
Yeah.
met.
Some great questions.
You mean COVID?
I mean, really, you think
I
about
don't know what
that,
you
how
just
it is,
said.
Yeah.
those critical ages when those kids were
Right.
first grade, second graders, and now look where we're at, so. I mean, those are things that come up.
Well, is it the same then too, not that you would necessarily know this, but like our 504 plan's really high in that.
And that is something we've studied, and that is something that we have been looking at, just identification for 504s, accommodations being provided. And that was a big push this year, based upon, we're seeing a lot of what we qualify as almost over-identification coming into the high school level.
Well,
So-
especially if it's, focus on the academics, like literacy. And this happened, COVID happened when they were in the 5th graders now were in 1st grade then.
Yeah, critical
That's a
ages.
pretty foundational time for learning how to read.
Absolutely, especially, and then if you, again, looking at what their qualifying needs are, what is the time that's based there? Math is another one.
Right.
Doing math virtually, is that gonna be something that's gonna be problematic? You gotta look at those age groups, because when attendance is a big impactor too, kindergarten to first grade.
Mhm.
Studies have shown that is the most critical year attendance wise, and then as you start looking at whether they're academic successful or not in the future, those are the crucial years for math and reading as well. Socialization's there, so are we seeing that bubble? Because those are all those, territory questions you gotta ask.
Well,
You
I
never
wonder
know.
about surrounding districts too,
Right.
are they experiencing a bubble?
Well,
I'm just calling it a bubble.
I bet we're far better off than a lot of districts, because we were already set up for virtual. And a lot of districts weren't set up for virtual, and it took them months to get on board with getting their kids.
And not just special needs, we're talking kids in general.
All
Right.
the whole district, I'm saying the whole district.
Sure,
Right.
another place too,
Right.
absolutely.
Interesting.
Good scientific method going on over here.
Sorry, Alec, that's
That's a really interesting thought.
well, I mean, it's, not to beat around the bush, it screwed a lot of people up,
Yeah, absolutely.
not just kids, a
Yeah.
lot of people, so, yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, we're seeing the lasting impacts, but then it has staffing implications and,
Yeah, the
like,
downfall effects.
yeah,
Yeah.
like it's kind of like this big snowball.
Yes.
How do you meet these needs? Huh. Okay.
Yeah, so that was pretty much it, I guess. Those standards alignment for academics, the educator support is really through that data review, the CISA 1 induction program, and our PST coaching, and then some exciting family events coming up.
Do you have a date for that?
We believe it's gonna be April 8th. There should be a communication going out Monday to families.
Okay.
And it will be at the
Oh.
rec center.
That's like tomorrow, not really, but
Yeah,
yeah.
it's coming up quick.
Yeah, it's very
And
fast.
then you'll have a district-wide event too
Yes,
in
yep.
the late summer?
Yeah, we were planning one, and my parent liaisons came to me with this idea just because of like the context of the situation.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really good idea, so we're gonna get through this one first and then look back at planning that one and
Okay.
see when a good time for it would be.
Okay.
Can you talk a bit more about parent liaisons? Like,
Yeah.
what do they do, or just?
Yeah, they are wonderful. So we have 2 parents in the district who are parent liaisons. I think the official name is District Engagement and Family Liaisons. And so they meet with a statewide coordinator, I believe, monthly. So they are on our communication option sheet, so parents can call them for like advice or to like get their take on a situation. They'll attend IEP meetings to support families, and then they help me plan events like the parent engagement stuff. So they really are kind of a liaison.
Right.
Yeah, I was like looking for the word, I was like, oh, it's right in front of me. Oh, yeah, what time is it? Okay.
There's a word for it.
Yeah. Between myself and parents and myself, vice versa. So they've been very helpful.
And so I'm assuming these are two parents that have students with special needs within the district.
Yes.
And then was it just more like how did it come to be?
Are these volunteer
Yeah.
roles or?
It is a paid role, it's a stipend role.
That's nice.
They were here when I got here,
Mhm.
so I couldn't speak to exactly like how the process was rolled out, but it's a common practice. Like I know Elmbrook has them, Franklin has two, and they all meet together and like go over different things. I think they're planning like a community-wide picnic
Oh,
towards the end of the year too, so
that's neat.
yeah.
Nice.
You talk about an intimidating document for many people. I mean,
Absolutely.
a parent
Yeah.
looking at that, it's,
And we just have someone to just like bounce things off of in
Right,
like a
yeah.
safe manner.
yeah, I always, it's an intimidating piece of paper, and you're like,
Absolutely.
but it's my child, like,
Yes.
why is it on a 20 document page,
I know.
you know,
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, that's cool, okay.
Well, if that's the end of your slideshow here, I'm not gonna let you get away without talking about the budgeting and the problems and other things back there.
Yeah.
So if you could just give an overview of what's going on with the special ed budget, how we've been affected, how we can move forward, and what we're gonna do to.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking the question. I think a common conception is that when the special ed reimbursement rate doesn't live up to the promise, right, that it affects only special ed. It is truly, difficult for our entire system. So special ed, these supports we provide, these services that we fund, they're legally mandated. So we are paying for those regardless. If we don't have the reimbursement for it, we're pulling it from other funding. Right, so our students in special education are still getting their services, right? But it makes our entire, financial situation in the district more difficult. So it really is a district-wide effect for all of our families in meeting all of our students' needs. From a special ed specific perspective, I think it really just delays us in a lot of things that we want to do, like those nice to have things. So, you saw that a lot of educators up there talked about executive functioning being difficult. I would love to explore some additional resources and training around executive functioning, but things are tight, right? And it's hard to delineate if that's a disability support or a tier 1 or a tier 2 support. I know of a lot of grant funding that we can look at to help fill that, but that takes time, right? So it just causes some delay, and how many students are we not servicing in that delay then is kind of a big piece of frustration. But I think the biggest takeaway that I would give is that it truly affects the entire district, not just the 14% of students that have an IEP.
Right.
So as of now, you haven't, other than additional things that you want to do, you haven't been stopped from doing what you
No.
need to do?
No.
Okay.
I mean, right, legally, you have to meet the
Yeah,
document,
right.
compliance.
Yes.
And obviously, it's money well spent, it's just
Yes.
where are we gonna get the other money?
Well,
And
because
we have a
then,
fantastic business
yes, absolutely.
director and
Yes.
so
But then it might create a vicious cycle, right?
Yeah.
Because then we're not giving the proactive supports
Right.
in our earlier instruction to prevent students from qualifying for special education too. So if there is a constraint in that way, which there isn't currently, but Yeah. right.
And when you combine the special ed funding with the other two aspects of our budgetary crises that we got hit with, I mean, when you're talking $1.5 million out of a budget, $1.5 million is gonna come from somewhere. And whether it's an $800,000 shortfall or whether it's a full shortfall from special education, something's not getting done for everybody. All students are gonna have to adjust.
Mhm.
And we are very, very, very fortunate to have who we have in the office over here to be able to work through that, and the other office over there to be able to, problem solve and come up with some of these ideas. So as much as the timing of us having to move was, kind of a pain and a nightmare, had that not been an opportunity to be able to save additional funds, we would really be in a budgetary crunch. Because again, we would still be paying money out for where we're staying for our lease. We'd still be funding some of the other things that we need to do externally, whether it's a roof, whether it's asbestos abatement, which got put on hold until the move. So a lot of those things, it was almost a blessing in disguise, even though it is a curse. This, from a special ed funding standpoint, is a curse, but we're going to have to fix it. We're going to have to work through it. Meanwhile, everything else is having to be adjusted in order to do just that, to meet those legal requirements. So it's a scary thing, but we're very fortunate right now where we're doing the things needed, but at some point, we're gonna figure it out.
I know that this is kind of outside the scope of this conversation, but looking at reports of school closings and having to condense, do you see us then having to pick up students nearby, or are they located around, like further out in the state?
That's a great
Do you
question.
know
So, from a
offhand?
proximity standpoint, locally, we will more than likely not be impacted.
Okay,
I think some of the bigger impacted areas are gonna be rural areas.
right,
So as you
For
look
now,
at, for now, and as you look, and I keep coming back to one who was very familiar with Palmyra. Palmyra was a district that was struggling prior to all of this because of
Sure.
the same budgetary planning processes where they're told a certain amount
right,
that you're gonna be guaranteed, and then you roll in and you're planning on that amount budgetarily, but then all of a sudden it changes again. So over time, whether you plan for a 2% or a 3% conservative budget over what you're promised, you still can't adjust to a 5 to 7% decrease in what you receive.
right,
We have budgeted higher than the 2 to 3% average, so we've been luckily moving ahead with what we already thought, but we still can't adjust to it. Smaller districts don't have the ability to budget for a 5 to 7%.
right.
So when you look at a district like Palmyra where it's so small, they're gonna get absorbed by the local districts, whether it's Jefferson, whether, most of the students are open rolling out anyways, just because of the location. Whether it's gonna be Waukesha, Brookfield School District, some of those other ones, they're gonna have to pick them up.
Okay,
Fort Atkinson would be one, Whitewater was another one, so they're having to basically make the families travel further, just because they're rural. Up
or
north,
even
it's,
just busing and it just
Right.
changes,
But they wouldn't be
Cool,
open
that
enrollment
works.
students.
no, they would end up by being enrolled, because it changed the residential boundaries.
right,
So up north, this is a very big concern. And I'll give you the primary example would be Stevens Point. Stevens Point Area High School is the largest high school in the state of Wisconsin. They're busing kids, and Mosinee School District was the largest geographical school district in the area. And we weren't having to bus our students anywhere near what Stevens Point had to do. Stevens Point students could be on the buses for a day, anywhere in excess of 2.5 hours
Oh
on the
my
bus for
goodness.
travel. So you consider that, what that has an impact on a kid, academically, but then
right,
financially on the district, you're having to figure out how to bus these students from 30, 40 miles away. So there's a lot of these things that come up and it's like, well, one way or the other, we'll figure it out, and school districts do, but
right.
it is,
But
it's
then that
a
kind of
challenge.
creates the state
cost?
funding,
At what
again,
cost?
like, how do you get ahead of it then
Yeah.
for the next year? It's almost like it multiplies.
And what districts have the luxury to anticipate, okay, if they're gonna cut us 7%, they tell us this, they're gonna get 7% below. So now moving forward, do we budget 15% ahead? And then budgeting 15% ahead, what do you have to pull out? What are the things that aren't gonna get done over the summer bills? What are gonna be the things we can't plan for, emergency wise? And the more that keeps coming up, the more that we're gonna have to adjust. I'll give a really, really good example and then I'll shut up. But there's a lot of states in the United States that have what's called Alyssa's Law, which is based, and you guys have heard me talk about our alert badges. There are, I think, 10 states right now that require that for every school district in their state to have these alert badges in place, some sort of immediate notification system. The grant I applied for is $500,000 and we're not the bigger districts.
Mm-hmm,
So when you look at some of the states like in Texas and Florida in particular, where you have 4,000 and 5,000 student district or 5,000 student high schools,
right,
the amount of money that costs in order to have your staff have a badge for every single one of those people is, exorbitant.
Well,
So-
isn't that like Act 20 and the testing that was required, but like there wasn't full state
funding.
funding
Right.
provided
Yep.
with all that testing?
and the curriculum that came along with that too,
Right.
because it was new standards.
Yeah, and again, the timeliness, and then like Alex
Yes.
said, there's certain things we have to do, so what
Right.
it means is we're gonna have to put some of these other things off for a time being, because the timeliness of delivering something like Act 20 and say, by the way, you got a month to enact this, once kids come back to school, now you're having to adjust, and you're having to adjust on the fly. So again, we do successfully, but at the same time, it creates things that you're not anticipating, whether it's the stress in the teachers being relayed to the students, whether it's the stress to the students being relayed to families, and then it becomes this thing that we all are having to adjust. So again, it's, we'll figure it out, we always do, like I said, at what cost?
Yep.
What are the things that in the future that are gonna be sacrificed because we're in this situation, so.
When I think too, these budget implications aren't like big like balloon full of water burst, you know, it's a problem. It's like a tiny little hole that's slowly leaking.
Sooner or later, we're gonna run out of fingers to plug the holes.
Right.
Okay, now what?
And so it's not this like big catastrophic event that community is like, oh no, it's like we've been slowly
No. And roofs.
Yeah,
You know, if you have a roof, sometimes catastrophic that'll happen, but generally it'll be a
Right.
small leak here, a small leak here. And before you know it, those leaks are leading into ceilings and it's leading into floors, so then structurally you have issues. And it's not something where it's a tornado that comes away from the building, because then you get insurance for it.
right.
But you get a little leak that's causing issues at the compound, that's really, you know, what we're dealing with as we're doing budgetary issues.
So I have a question about the special education reimbursement that maybe you'll know, but maybe you'll know from how long you've been in education. So like, I know we've never gotten the promised 2/3 funding, right? But was this year unique because they promised a 42% but gave so much less, where before it was maybe we promised 35% but gave 33% or
The
something?
gap was bigger this year,
Okay,
you're
it
correct,
was,
yeah,
okay.
that's my
The
understanding.
gap was bigger and the timing was different.
Oh.
Because again, when you look at budgetary processes, we
That's right.
do our annual meetings in July.
Uh-huh.
We are given till October for our adjustments for the full district budget, so you have October adjustments, and at that point, all budgets are finalized throughout the state. So when you look at the timing of the message getting delivered, we didn't have time to adjust. And when you're, again, we're finalized, everything's good to go, and then you find out, oh, by the way, just kidding.
Right.
But we anticipated.
We did
But not to that
better than
extent.
most, yeah, just not to the larger.
Not the gap.
Right, the size of the gap.
And adding on some of the other things that we're talking about.
Wow.
Well, thank you for making the adjustments, having the foresight to, you know, look ahead and try and get staff where they need to be, you know, looking at how to support families. I mean, it all plays a role in having a successful special education system, so I appreciate all your hard work and
Yeah, absolutely, well, we've got a great team of district office people here that have helped me a lot with that, especially Caitlin, Lee, and Dan, so, yeah.
yeah.
And one of the things that I'll say too, from Alex standpoint, and you guys are gonna be always, I don't want you to get a big head or anything, but I would bring.
Take someone will knock you down.
I always brag about Alex because, and you'll know this too, is special education is meant to be something that you're in, you get assistance, you get out. It's not a sentence. And so often you get into districts. it
Unless you
becomes
have an
just-
intellectual disability.
Again, like, we're, again, developing and improving, right?
Oh, 100%.
100%, but what you don't wanna do is have a student that you're putting in there and now that's it. That's, you're known as that, that's what your whole identity is around, is your special needs. And that's one of the things I really try to dialogue with, is getting people to understand that our goal isn't to have students be in special education forever, it's to improve and continue to improve so that you are now meeting your needs, but getting to the same level of what your
Right.
peers are. So, you know, you get a 10th grader as a second grade reading level. The difficulty of getting them to be at a 10th grade reading level, eight leaps and bounds in 1 year's time.
Yeah, not enough time.
It's not gonna happen. But to what you're saying, Hallie, if I can get them 4 grade levels up in that year, that's an amazing accomplishment. Well, they're only at a 6th grade reading level, but if we can have that growth by what we're doing and intervening in, to get them by the time, even if after they graduate, they're at a 9th or 10th grade reading level.
I more meant like Down syndrome.
Oh, I know, yeah, no, for sure,
Yes.
and having opportunities still for them too,
Yeah.
right? You know, and that's, again, why we have such phenomenal special ed director. And I've talked to him before.
I appreciate that, our staff makes me look good, so.
That's not,
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming in, Alec. I
Anytime.
I ask everybody that comes in here, is there anything that is on your wish list that you want to read right now?
No, I appreciate you asking that question, but I even think just the questions you guys always bring and even asking about the budget is really, really helpful, so I appreciate that.
Okay, well, whatever we can do to support you, because obviously you have a difficult job and a very important job, so
I appreciate that.
anytime
Ask
you
your
wanna-
staff what they need and then
Exactly.
tell us.
Yeah.
You come with a whole list of.
Yeah.
Like a straw,
You're gonna have a new
couple
presentation for us
slides.
Right, a few more slides.
Shoot, what is this? Not
Well-
for me, for the kids.
Well, finish out the year strong, we appreciate all your efforts and thanks again for coming in.
Yeah, thank you, I love talking about special ed, so
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll give you a time to head out and then we'll finish up our.
Good. Thank you guys.
Yes,
Yeah, you're welcome.
I mean, I think it's a long
Either way,
so
either way.
I'll stay,
Alright.
yeah.
alright, sounds good.
So future agenda items, possible items, I actually have one for you. Last year I attended the, athletic invite or whatever that Mr. D'Amato had, and we talked about a, floor for a GPA for, being in sports,
Mhm.
and then a academic, I don't know how to put it, but how many Fs you can have, or how many Ds you can have, or
Requirements.
requirements.
Mhm.
I'd like to revisit that
Sure.
at some point, and I don't know if that comes from us or curriculum or what, we can do it here.
My standpoint, it would be great to have it here.
Okay,
And then I'd have to look at our calendar to see when John's gonna be coming back, but one of the things that John and I have talked about, and this comes and falls directly under the code of conduct, which Sarah and you and I have talked about this before too, but there's an athletic code of conduct.
right,
So in the athletic code of conduct, what's determined is the rigor of what the responsibility of being an athlete is.
Yeah.
So whether it's how many Fs you can have, what the minimum floor of the GPA is for a requirement,
right.
attendance, remember we brought that up as
Right.
part of our.
Serving detentions.
Yep, exactly.
Right.
Whether they can practice, whether they can play.
Right.
So right now, I do know that the F requirement is you can have no more than one F in a course in order to participate in athletics at all. The grade point average is at 1.7, and this is a conversation as we start looking at what he's gonna be doing this summer. He's gonna be doing work on that code of conduct book, where you're gathering comparables in the area, gathering conference data.
Sure.
One other thing that hasn't been shared publicly yet, but we did get final approval, the board from the WIA did approve, we are going to be moving into a different conference, fully athletic.
We saw that.
Yep, so we're gonna be going into the Great Northern Conference for football this year, and then full conference transition for all of our athletics and some activities into that conference for the 27-28 school year.
Great.
Can you break that down a little bit,
Sure,
you know, for the districts that we are in competition with now, and then where we'll be
you bet.
going?
So the Metro Conference contains a lot of the school districts in the area, Tulsa, Germantown, who is also gonna be exiting. Some of the bigger ones, Brookfield, or Elmbrook, I'm sorry, Elmbrook is gonna be in there. West Dallas is part of the Metro Conference, and basically it's just those surrounding greater Milwaukee area conference schools. So as we look at what we wanted to transition, something that's more of a comparable districts to our size, but also, just really what our kids are competitive with. That was one of the things that we started doing for football. And when football had that conversation, other school districts were like, well, we'd really like to have you for these, we'd really like to have you for these.
Sure.
It didn't come without some disgruntlement within the Metro Conference, but also we're anticipating some of the future needs of what the Metro Conference is gonna have and what that's going to look like based upon what the WIA is doing in other districts and other conferences.
Okay.
So as we start anticipating what our needs are, trying to get some of our needs met, but also being, predictive of what's gonna eventually happen, we wanted to have something in preparation for it, and that's where this presentation.
Well, and thank
How
goodness
is
for
that?
John, because he led the charge on
You bet.
doing that.
Yeah.
Because there are schools
Saw it
like
coming.
Sussex and, places like that just come out and destroy you in football. But football is a totally different animal than all these other sports, so,
I mean,
and then you
that's
have the
no.
divisions and everything else
Right.
with, cheerleading and dance and everything
Yep,
else.
and inside and
How does
outside.
that, and this is maybe just more naivete on my part, but how does that work with like travel? Do we need to travel further? Is it just
really based on the size of the districts that are nearby, so it's literally just different schools in the area.
Well, I think Grafton is the only one that's a little further than, was it Grafton that got in?
Well, so I know like Germantown is in the new one, so
Yeah.
that's close.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
well,
they
it's not
are
different, right, for-
comparable and they also
Slinger.
are making the move
Yeah.
to,
To the new conference.
It's just a big realignment
Yeah.
for
It's a big shift, and I can share with you, from when we did this in the Badger conference, and we didn't have a whole lot of choice in it. As principals and athletic directors and superintendents, we would have meeting after meeting after meeting, really trying to figure out what's the best way to have these conferences aligned, knowing that the WIA is already moving some pieces exactly for what you're talking about.
Right.
From, give you kind of a picture, our furthest district that we traveled to from Fort Atkinson was Reedsburg. So I want you to kind of picture Reedsburg, north of Wisconsin Dells, from Fort Atkinson. So you're talking a 45-minute drive from Madison, Wisconsin Dells, now add another half hour, and then add another half hour. So we're having kids do this on a Friday night for football, and they're having kids do this on a Friday night for football. Our other farther side was Monroe. Monroe is another far, you're looking at the Iowa border. And we're driving from really south central Wisconsin to the Iowa border during the school week for kids to compete and be competitive. So when the WIA starts shifting and moving some of these things around, it's like, well, not only is it from a transportation cost, but how about for what's good for kids? You know, coming home at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and your expectation is you're gonna be at school because you're an academic person
And
first.
keep up your grades
Well,
and
you got it.
Not only
So-
that, you're leaving school early to get to the game.
Right.
You bet.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot of those moving pieces that we did in the Badger conference to say, okay, not only are we gonna look at bigs and littles for conference size, who's our schools that are competitive and comparable, but also from a transportation standpoint, what can we do? Oregon to Reedsburg is not really horrible, but Reedsburg is a pretty small school district. Oregon's a pretty big school district, pretty affluent big school district. Now you're having them go up to Reedsburg and the same thing was going on. So a lot of those things is trying to figure out and anticipate what's gonna be done on a larger scale. But then being able to also look and say, well, how do we meet our needs and advocating, like John does, advocating for our needs as a school. So, but as you consider it, I mean, again, if we're traveling less, do we have more opportunities for our kids not to be tired in class? Do we
And
have
not
more
to
opportunities
miss.
for them to have more academic success? While at the same time, not limiting students that we definitely want to engage in athletics and activities and extracurriculars to get our hooks on them so that they're gonna be better at school. So there's a balance there. John, and I'm just gonna throw this out there, and this isn't in no way, shape, or form a guarantee, but some of the things we talked about is a 2.0. Is a 2.0 high enough where we're still encouraging kids to be academically engaged and rigorous, and not too high where it's prohibitive to keep kids out that are struggling at school? And if it is, then what do we do in the background to bring them up?
Right.
We don't wanna have low standards, we don't wanna have low expectations,
well,
and
I mean,
for
I
the-
think even 1F is
Right.
really unacceptable.
And again, but we don't wanna be prohibitive, because if we can get these kids engaged in extracurriculars, can we get them to attend tutoring now that we
Right,
do
which
with our
then
athletics?
obviously
Cause that
has
kid
been
with the one,
proven to
yeah.
get a better grade when they're on a team, it's that.
But we don't, you know, you don't wanna get caught in the low expectations game where it's like, you kids care about school, but is it great athlete? And then we have, again, kids graduating that aren't meeting the level of expectation we have. So it's like, well, I mean, yeah, he's a phenomenal football player, he's reading at a third grade level, then failed all the way through, but he was a nice kid, so he gave him good grades. Not, then there's back to standards.
Right.
Standards are the expectation of curricular, what you're gonna be able to do, what are your assessment standards?
Mhm.
So it's a big connected, string, a ball of string. But yeah, so I don't know, I mean, I think once
I
John
think for the
gets-
most part, our teams and our activities students have, as far as I see, you look at the district's Facebook page or whatever, and you see these coaches put up team GPAs of 3.8 and 3.9, and that's amazing.
And the state recognition for it.
Right,
When you're
Right.
an all academic scholar
right,
for athletics, getting state recognition for that.
yeah,
And, that is, as a group and as a team and as a cohort of kids.
yeah,
There's a lot to be celebrated there.
right.
So then again, it comes back to how do we get the needs of the ones that are struggling while not lowering our expectations for academics?
Right.
Because you're always gonna be a student first, a student after that.
But also with behavior, if you haven't set your
Absolutely.
attention, you're not practicing and you're not gonna play. So,
I'd say what's that?
But
3 lanes.
inconsistency, I mean, I think kids show up then if they want it bad enough.
Yeah.
They'll seek out the
Right.
support to get the extra help with math or reading or whatever it is to, with the understanding
So
that they
just-
need to.
so just to say, I know John's probably coming up in the next couple of meetings, so.
Yeah, but
And I know he's working through the handbook for the summer,
mhm.
so,
Okay.
And if he's before, and I'm trying to think, cause we've got, and if
but
you
it
look
has
at
to be before school starts in
Yeah.
August or
So
something.
as we start looking at our calendar, and again, I don't have it up right now, but I know April, we don't have a student support meeting.
Right.
May, we've got the annual updates for all of my umbrella, and then, so that would take us into June, July, and August. And I'm trying to remember, and I don't put that in the, I'm trying to remember whether it was.
You wanna come back in
Whether it was
June?
in July or if it was after school had started, because when we first started, we did our
Right.
30, 60, 90 updates.
Right.
But that's something we could definitely look at, and we can talk about it more outside of
Sure.
here, but
Sure,
that's something that like I said, I do wanna let you know, he is working, and that is part of the conversation
Yeah.
we've been having too, so, but I would like to see that too.
okay,
And then maybe it's as part of the full code of conduct update, and say, here, I just wanna let you guys know, again, with athletics, different than behavioral or school codes of conduct. Those are
athletics
not,
and activities.
yep, those are
Right.
not necessarily things that are board approved, those are things that are approved. We
Right,
could, again, review and revise
departmental
here.
or, right,
But, and then bring it for a full board presentation, hey, just wanna let you know, from a board update standpoint, this is what was talked about the Student Support Service Committee. Wanna give you an idea that John worked on the student handbook, kind of handbook, and got it done.
Is that kind of a jump in a GPA or an OF or whatever, is that a board vote, or is that just what the athletic
Not with the
director is?
athletic code.
Okay,
Yep.
so he'll meet with the principals and everything, okay, alright,
And I've been through many code of conduct updates from an athletic and activity standpoint. And the last one was a complete and total revision, 100% from scratch, throw the other one out, and we're starting from new.
sure,
And then we relied on some, again, collaboration with our school district, in particular, that one was Middleton School District and Middleton High School. But we're not looking at that. Our code of conduct is pretty solid, but there are things that John is like, we need to look at this hasn't been addressed in a few years,
Right.
this hasn't been addressed in a long time. So again, prioritizing what those needs.
So he's doing his job.
Absolutely,
yeah,
yeah,
he's amazing.
he's such a reflective guy. And I'll leave it at that, cause I did have another cat, but I don't wanna let that out of the bag.
Okay.
Not until I get finalization.
I bet we could poke it out of you.
Not on film, you
Right,
can't.
we'll keep it a
Cause I
surprise.
don't wanna put that burden on someone else.
Any other possible items that, future agenda items anybody wants to bring out? No? Okay,
no,
alright, then I need a motion to adjourn our meeting.
motion?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And that is passed,
6:22.
is it six?
That's a record.
6:21,
Alright.
6:21, but we are adjourned, so.
Alright.
Oh, and we're gonna do the calendar off campus.